Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday to you. How was your weekend? Most people, I think, were celebrating a holiday weekend this weekend. So, how was your weekend or your time off? Did you have extra time off? Are you getting today off for the holiday? Did somebody let you have the day off? Um, Today I am going to tell you and talk to you and share with you my belief and opinion on all the poisons going on in the world, and if you're aware of what's poisoning you, and if you believe that they're trying to also save you. And I used to believe that. I used to believe that pharmaceutical medicine was here to save our lives. I used to believe that there was a lot of help and support in the world and society for our health and our lives. Um, when I was young, my grandmother was sick. I was very, very, very close to my grandma. And she was pretty much the closest person to me in life. Uh, and my dad. But as I grew up, my grandma got really sick. She got really, really, really sick. And nobody really knew what was wrong with her. She had this really rare disease. She had a really rare disease that was basically causing a deterioration in her body, in her bones, and her muscles, and her organs. Pretty much her entire body this disease was just tearing her body down. So there was a deterioration of her actual being, everything in her physical body. And so then growing up, I saw my dad really sick. My dad was sick most of my life, or has been sick most of my life also, and not like sick in the hospital, just sick. My dad's had type 2 diabetes since probably forever, but I think he was diagnosed with it when he was like in his 40s. So I was a teenager. And like I said, my grandma had this disease that she died from, and I can't even pronounce the name of the disease, and it was so rare. At the time, I think my grandpa told me there were only like a dozen other cases in the world of this disease. And as a kid, I was like, oh God. I saw my grandma suffer. I saw the pain she went through. They diagnosed her with this disease, and they thought she would live about a year. And she ended up living like 13 years with this sickness and this disease. And as I was growing up, I was like, oh man, I don't want that. I saw how horrible her life was. Even though she spent a lot of time with me, I saw how horrible it was. I saw how much she missed out on. I saw how much time she spent just sitting around waiting to be waited on, and she didn't want to be waited on, but she couldn't do anything. I mean, she literally laying down was miserable after a little while because her muscles hurt so bad, and standing up was horrible after a little while because her bones hurt so bad. And by the time she died, she couldn't breathe. Her lungs had deteriorated so much and they were full of fluid, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And so watching my grandma go through this throughout life, and then seeing my dad be diagnosed with diabetes, and my mom was bipolar, and all these other things, all these other sicknesses. My mom, we used to joke as a teenager that my mom was like a walking pharmaceutical. And that she would, if you had a pain or an ailment, go to mom. She's got some kind of med that'll hook you up. And I used to think it was kind of funny, like, geez, my mom's like the local pharmaceutical. But I always knew there was something wrong with it. I always knew there was something wrong with this way. And I always knew there was something wrong with the way my dad did things. That's why I was at my dad's ass half my life. Like, hey, Dad, how about you do this? Or, hey, Dad. And I'd send him stuff and send him literature to educate him on himself and all these things. So here's what I've gotten. Oh, what's up, Teresa? Here's what I've come to understand more and more and more and more is that, one, it is choice. Number one, it's our choice. So as much as I want my dad to choose differently, he doesn't want to. So he keeps choosing what he wants to choose, and it keeps feeding his diabetes. So he's feeding his own death. And lots of other people don't want to make changes. They don't want to choose to decide and believe something different and make changes. So that's number one. And that's what I believe 100%. And I've seen it in action. The other thing is, oh my gosh, my arm gets tired. The other thing is the pharmaceuticals are not saving anyone's life. They're really not. They're prolonging your death. And so pharmaceuticals, most of the medications that people are taking are hurting them in other ways. That's why there's a list of side effects that, hey, I mean, it's even that way if you want to take some Viagra to get a boner. They're like, hey, you could have a heart attack. You could die. And people are so sensitive these days on the skin sac level that people are willing to die for a hard-on. They're willing to die for a good time, as in a physical thrill. And it's like, this is craziness. This is craziness. But anyway, back to, are they saving your life? Nope, they are not. And they're actually, the world is poisoning you every single day. I bet you every single day you're ingesting poison. And you probably just don't know it. But it's like, look at your foods. Look how many dyes are in your foods. And they have shown where all these dyes, they literally cause cancer. And there's dyes in everything. Everything. I used to not believe that and ate so many things. And this last year, I got so super laser focused about my life and started looking at things. And so many of the things that I was still eating are so full of dyes. And these dyes, they've shown what they do to rats. They've shown what they've done to so many people, and they cause cancer. They've shown where they cause cancer. So you're literally buying food to kill you if you're consuming this stuff. And when it comes to pharmaceuticals, here's the big one that got me. I was like, oh my, literally God, I cannot believe that. And the big one here is, it came to my attention in Kansas, because in Kansas, there's lots of farms and there's lots of farming and farmland and all this, and they use pesticides. And Roundup, the number one pesticide, I think, in the world, probably. Roundup, the company that produces and uses and makes and distributes and has made millions of dollars, is also the same company, the same owner that owns heart medication. That seems weird to me. Here's the other thing. Roundup is like its number one side effect is heart disease. So that doesn't make sense to me, that a company produces Roundup as a pesticide, but they also are the company that sells heart medication. And it seems to me like they're in it for dollars. They're like, hey, we can help you with your fields and your farm and your this and your that. But we can also, once you get that heart disease from using our Roundup forever, you can take our pill that will prolong your suffering. It'll keep you alive, like to the normal human time, but it just prolongs your suffering because you're the Roundup, and it's everywhere. You can buy it at Walmart. You can buy it at Home Depot. You can buy it anywhere you want. But you know what? You can't get that heart medication unless you go to a doctor and get a prescription. So you have to go and pay another person to give you a prescription for something to save your life or to prolong your death. But you can go get that Roundup and spray it anywhere you want, all over the place, anytime you want. You can do it if you're 12. You can do it if you're 28. You can do it if you're 75. But if you want some heart medication, it doesn't matter if you're 10 or 28 or 95. You have to go get a prescription to get that heart med. And how do you know that they're even giving you one that's going to work? How do you know? And I believe you don't. You do not know. I don't think we know anything. I think it's just observation. So we can only make our best judgments when it comes to other people and their choices. And when I found out all of these things, I had to make choices to change. I had to make choices to do different things, because I don't want my children suffering through my death. I don't want my grandchildren suffering. And in my grandma's case, maybe it was completely inevitable. Maybe she had absolutely no choice. Maybe she was living perfectly well and being super healthy and doing all the right things. I don't think so. Not from what I've seen. You know, she was great grandma, super awesome grandma. But I can see where she did not put her health first. She did not put her life first. She did not put her reality first. So she suffered. And that's what happens. That's life. But we don't have to pick that. We can learn. We can do different. And so Roundup's just one of them. And heart medications. But there's tons of other ones out there. And if we don't become more aware of our own choices and more aware of what we're doing every single day, this is what happens. And it ripples and it explodes into so much more. And so now I see people walking around in the grocery store angry and mad at their kids and yelling at their children and then feeding them full of all this crap. And so I see problems and I see disconnect and I see suffering and I see pain in the world, but I see that it's all made by our choices. And I see that my dad suffers from type 2 diabetes because he chooses the way he does. And for me, that's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate for him, but it's his choice. And I can't make it for him. I couldn't make it for my grandma, even if hers was out of her control. I believe these choices are what lead to all this. I believe cancer has been created by all the bullshit in our food. I believe cancer was created by all these products, all these things we have to have. So I don't believe we have to have it all. I believe we've been sold and conditioned on a way of life that really isn't legit. It's really not. It's not the ultimate human experience, and it is not designed for us. This is something way bigger play going on. So you may not use Roundup. You may not take heart medication. And that's what I thought. I thought for a long time, like, wow, I don't do that, so I'm good. And it was like, yeah, right. And I started with fast food. I started looking at fast food and the packaged container food I was eating, and I was like, oh my goodness. And the more and more I've learned, I'm like, I cannot believe this. Bottled water? I bought bottled water because I thought I was helping myself. I was afraid to drink the water that they put crap in, you know what I mean? And then I started reading about bottled water, and I was like, okay, not only is it polluting the planet, which I believe, I see it everywhere, bottled water is stripped of every mineral and everything that your body actually needs from water. So when you drink bottled water, water's alive. Water's like living. And it's not quite like you and I, but it's alive. So water needs nutrients, and water needs minerals, and water needs things. And so when you drink bottled water, the water goes searching for what it needs. And because you've ingested it and put it into your system, it searches your system for the things it needs. So as the water filters through your body and runs through your body, it pulls out all that stuff that you actually need. So you're depleted. So not only are you drinking bottled water that's got nothing in it that you need, it's actually stealing it from you. Isn't that crazy? And they charge you so much for it. So there's ways around it if you're still wanting to drink bottled water. I was for a long time. I was like, oh, well, what the heck do I do? Because filtering it isn't putting minerals in it that I need. So you can buy drops and things to put in your bottled water to make it more nutritious and beneficial to your body. But now you got to deal with the bottled water, the packaging, you know? So the more aware you become of these choices and these things going on, the more you're like, what? What? So think about how you might be being poisoned for the sake of somebody else's dollar. Because literally, like the Roundup company selling Roundup poison and then turning right around and selling you a med to solve the poison. It's all about dollars and money and furthering themselves. And life isn't about dollars. Life isn't about money. And so many people are selling people to make more money. So many people are convincing people that if they just have more money, they're going to have a better life. So look at your choices. Look at what you're doing. Look at how you're poisoning yourself. And I say this with so much love because I was doing it for a long time. I was doing it to my kids for a long time. And I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness. No wonder I've had the problems throughout my life. Mentally, physically, otherwise. And it's because of all this, and I don't see these same issues and problems in my kids. We were talking about this yesterday, and it's like, I don't have the same concerns in my children that I would have had as my parent, you know? I don't have the same issues or problems or scenarios with my own children that I saw with myself and my brothers. You know, it was crazy. Growing up, I was a teen pregnancy. We were all doing drugs, you know. I remember one time my dad and my stepmom took away all my stuff because I had gone out with a boy one night, and they took away all my stuff, and they told me that if I continued down the road I was going to be in prison. And it was like, oh goodness, I don't want to be in prison, you know. So, oh, what's up, Leah? So yeah, you know, my brothers and I were not doing well. You know, like I said, I was a teen pregnancy. I had a convict brother that was in prison. Another brother that was just drugged up. Not, you know, I mean, we were just doing terrible things, and I do not see these same issues and problems with my children. I don't have this stuff, and I believe it's because my problems were thick. My issues were heavy. And I was sad and upset all the time and struggling. And so I had to look at these things, and I had to start making different choices, and I had to start asking why. You know, why was I feeling like shit at 25 years old? Why was I struggling mentally? You know, why was my mom always the way she was? I had to start asking all these questions. And it really shifted for me when my son turned 18, 19 years old, and that's the boy I had as a teenager, and he started doing things that it was like, what? No, what are you doing? And I started freaking out. I was like, oh God, he's going to make all these choices and things that are going to make his life so hard. And so it's tough to let go, but the more you focus in, and like I said, I started having these anxieties with my son, and that's when I started going, why? What is going on? And that's where the shift really happened for me. I really started looking at everything so deeply, and I started seeing all these disconnects with my son that I was having, that I had had with my own parents. You know, not as strangely or deeply, but there was still some there. So I had to really start asking myself those tough questions about myself. And some of it was like, oh, I mean, it's painful to really see and own the way you've been throughout your life, and then be like, oh my goodness, I created that. I taught that. I influenced that. That's hard, you know? It's really tough to take that when you're like, oh, shit. You know, but like I said, that boy meant so much to me. He means so much to me that I was willing to be like, what's going on here? And it was painful. It was so painful for me to own my shit. But I wanted to be with my son. I've had a bigger vision since I was 15, and it meant more. So if you're struggling and your life has some pain, ask yourself why, and start looking at these things, because it is all of this. And it sounds funny sometimes. You're like, what? What do you mean the dye in my food is messing with my brain? It's like, it is. It so is. And the more I've eliminated these toxic things in my life, these toxic foods, these toxic dyes, these toxic poisons, the more I've stopped using these products, the clearer my mind has become, the better I feel, the less debt I have. I've been able to free myself financially. I don't struggle with all my relationships. I don't get up every day and just, you know, because I'm pretty live and bubbly, but I can be an ass. I can have really down, heavy days. I really can, but there's so much less now. So much less now. They're so infrequent. And I believe it's because I'm not all messed up in the head. And it wasn't my fault. Just like it's not so many others' fault. Just like it's not, you know, I don't feel like my parents. I'm not all angry about things with my past or society. I get it now. Do I like it? No. I don't like lots of it. There's so much of it that I disagree with. I do not like. I think it's terrible. But I'm not all struggling and pent up about it now because I understand. So, anyway, I just had to share with you the poisons that I believe are out there. And there's a list a mile long. And if you want some of those, I actually have a PDF I can give you on all the different things that are poisoning you. However, if you don't want it, great. So, Anyway, all right, I'm gonna go. I'm relocating today. My cabin relocation. So I'm relocating at the village today. I found a way better spot, and so I'm relocating. So I'm gonna go get to that because I'm super excited. And I hope you have an awesome day. And think about what you might be poisoning yourself with, physically, mentally, spiritually, and everything can be a poison. It's how you look at it. It's how you choose to believe it is or isn't. And so people can be a poison, food's a poison, TV can be a poison, your time and how you spend it. There are so many things that can poison and clog up your system. And it doesn't have to be that way. So anyway, all right. If you want to hear more, get in the village. I'll share more in there as we go. But yeah, if you want that PDF, send me a message and I'll send it on over to you. Or just send me your email and I'll email it to you. Whatever's easier. If you want to say hi personally, then say hi. If you don't want to and you just want the PDF, just send me your email and I'll get it and I will let you, or I'll send it back to you. So anyway, all right. Have an awesome day. Peace. Love. See ya.